Welcome back to Jedi Enclave. I'm Daniel.
I'm Chris.
And this is the Jedi Enclave Presents. Now, this is Podcasting Podcast, our weekly podcast about Star Wars and other fandoms that we enjoy.
There's going to be a lot of MCU this week.
MCU had a fucking banger week this week. And so we're going to be talking a lot about the MCU. Star Wars had the only Star Wars news this week is more or less bad news on a couple of things. We'll talk about that.
Some mildly like big picture good news, but in the immediate there's some big picture good news.
Yeah. Oh, there's one that's just bad news. Yeah. Like a thing got canceled.
I'm also going to talk about Invincible because that's happening.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Invincible season 2. You and I saw, not together, but we saw the Marvels, which we're going to do a spoiler free and then a spoiler review, and we're going to chat about it. Loki season 2 had its finale, and there's
a lot to process there.
It was one of those things. I want to save it for when we talk about it, because I found myself way more emotional about that than I expected to be, and I thought it was absolutely amazing. Also, Avatar The Last Airbender had a trailer we'll probably chat about just for a second. And
there's an Arcane trailer for season 2, which is happening a year from now, which some of my friends are extremely excited about. But
I saw the first season. I didn't see that trailer though. I feel like there were a lot of like weird trailers because Ghostbusters. Like there's a new Ghostbusters movie that had a trailer.
That trailer looks so terrible.
I don't really care about the Ghostbusters that much.
Neither do I, but it still looks terrible.
Yeah, my dad likes the Ghostbusters, and I'm pretty sure he took me to see one of them when I was like really small, and I think I just didn't like it very much. But yeah, I was like, I don't really, because I didn't see the last one either.
Yeah.
Despite having like the entire Stranger Things cast in it. So anyway, yeah, if you're wanting to kind of poke around in the discussion, there are time codes in the description. If you're from the feature and you're watching this on our podcast on YouTube, you can go check out the time codes, go to whatever conversation you want. And also thank you to Connor at the Star Wars Hub and Star Wars Veritas. He's a buddy. We were talking. We put out a very controversial video last week.
Oh, good.
About Star Wars theory, and it must have gotten shared in like
a Star Wars theory fan group,
like
or something.
Circle Jerk or something, because like they all came at once, right? And most of them, like you can always tell by the quality of the comments if you're on the right side or not. And like almost all the comments were these disgusting, homophobic, lots of things about you and I being together. And we were talking about this the other night. It's like, I've known Chris for a decade, and I can tell you that he wouldn't mind if you thought we were dating. It just wouldn't be factually true. Like, it's not one of those things where like, you're going to like afterwards you're going to be like, do people think I'm gay? Because it just like, that isn't just, it's just not a thing that we really, or one was like, oh, those guys need to learn how to grow beards, which I didn't know was a skill. I thought you just did it. Like, I don't know. We had a mod went through and hid a bunch of the accounts with the like really gross comments. Yeah. And I think it's fitting punishment because those guys don't know what's happened to them, and they will be screaming into the void. But we won't see them, and no one else will see them either.
The best part of all of this, by the way, is that those comments still help us in the YouTube algorithm.
Yeah. And all the views help and everything too. So yeah.
So yeah, they're helping the very thing they hate.
Yeah. I just thought it was pretty funny. It was kind of fun to watch all the comments come in. There were some really nice comments though. And
hey, show me that one. Like, these two guys look like they've never pulled a punch in their lives.
Which I was like, that makes us sound way more badass than we are, but yeah,
that's the nicest thing anyone's ever said about me.
That's really nice. So speaking of, if you're watching this and you like what you hear, so make sure you click the like button and subscribe and share, and just sign up for notifications that we know when we go live. And you can join us on Discord as well. All the links to our socials are in the description. And then after this at 7, we're going to go and play Star Wars Battlefront 2. With our buddies. One of them has COVID, so he may or may not be there. But we'll have enough. And then Sunday at 7, we're doing our Gungans and Dragons series, which is our
Star Wars tabletop RPG.
And that's always a blast too. So go check that out.
I forget what the last session was. I just remember it was really fun. That was
what was the last one? It was there was a Sith holocron.
Oh
yeah, kind of out of nowhere,
and my guy who knows absolutely nothing about the Force of the Jedi got really fucking scared because you started talking about the thought bomb.
Yeah, it's like I might as well have had like a campfire with a lightsaber like lighting my face. I'd be like, ooh, Sith. You can join us, and it's a lot of fun. It's the first RPG I've ever done, like that were like real life ones. So it's been fun for me as well. So I want to get through like this newsy stuff because I feel like we're going to talk about Loki for a really long time. We're going to talk about the Marvels for a really long time, and if we need to save a part of the Invincible chat for Battlefront, that's fine since it's like the second episode. It wasn't super consequential or anything.
All right, you want to go first or check?
Well, I have the order on our show rundown with little D's or little C's next to, which by the way,
I just wasn't sure if this is one of those times where we go out of order, but I try to. You've clearly got it planned out. So
as was pointed out in the comments of this video, this is a very low effort operation, and this is like the one thing I put any amount of work in is making sure we know which one of us is reading what, which by the way is barely reading. I just skim it and make notes. So Kevin Feige, the head honcho over at the MCU, in 2019 the Hollywood Reporter broke an exclusive that Kevin Feige was going to produce a Star Wars feature with Loki creator Michael Waldron.
Okay. That sounds like it might be pretty good.
In retrospect, I was like, what the fuck? Why isn't this happening? Because it turns out it's not. So this was decided and reported like before Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker and The Mandalorian, before Baby Yoda took the world by storm. But someone asked him, I think Entertainment Weekly asked him about it at the Marvel's premiere in Las Vegas. And he gave this like, they asked him and his answer was, they're like, hey, is this going to happen? And he looks at him, he goes, no.
Oh.
And that's all I said about it.
Okay.
No, it's not happening. So I'm glad he didn't give any wiggle room about it where maybe it actually is happening. Like the dude
Kathleen Kennedy strikes again.
Yeah, he's like, no, sorry. And his plate probably is pretty full over the MCU. I know that we last week we talked about I always try to avoid saying we reported on because we're not reporters at all. There's no journalistic standard here whatsoever.
No, we just talk about things we like.
We talked about a Variety article last week about the MCU kind of being in trouble. And since then, I read some things that kind of argued that it was a little overblown, where I was like, oh, okay, that kind of makes sense. But I will say, like, after this last week, they've got some good things to talk about with the MCU.
For sure.
And, it's, maybe it's the kind of thing where like, the best is yet to come with it. And maybe Kevin Feige's just going to stay there and
it makes sense. Like he's spent almost 2 decades now building that
30 something films.
Yeah. And like it still makes money. Maybe not as much money as Disney would like, but it still makes a shit ton of money.
I'm sure it still makes plenty. So sorry, no Kevin Feige Star Wars film. We need to make a super cut. You remember those like really old, they weren't like old, but they were like from when we were kids. They would do the animal adoption videos where they'd have like the black and white footage of the real sad dog. And it was like that song, like In the Arms of an Angel. Yes. We need to do a cut of all of the Star Wars movies that have been canceled.
with Sarah McLachlan.
Yeah. I think that'd be pretty cool. What's next?
You know what else is pretty cool?
What?
The SAG-AFTRA strike is over.
Yes.
Not only is it over, but the actors won pretty big. Yeah. Like, we don't have full details, but there is a shit ton more money going to actors than there was before. And there's also some, like, very strong AI protections. Yeah. Which is
that was
really
a big thing, for them. Sorry, my footage is...
This being a Star Wars podcast, let's talk about what that means for Star Wars. So, Andor season 2 was in production. The strike happened when they had about 4 to 6 weeks of filming left to do.
Yeah.
The timing of the end of the strike is a little bit awkward because we're about to hit Thanksgiving and a little bit after that is Christmas. Yeah. So they might just wait until next year to finish that filming, which would probably push back the release date.
Yeah.
Like currently it's scheduled for August of next year, but it seems like it's going to be later than that.
God, that really depends. I know that like I've been kind of looking around at different projects that, so like, that James Gunn is taking over the DC universe.
Yes.
And their Superman movie is still on schedule, apparently. And I saw that right before the negotiations led to a tentative deal, the movie studios were like, we need to know if this is going to happen, because if it's not going to happen, we need to cancel our film slate for all of 2025, which was a huge dick move, because they're like, oh, it's your guys' fault. None of this is going to happen, which is just a dick move anyway. So it like, if that was hyperbole and like, it's not actually that big of a deal, or we already know it's going to have a huge impact on like, they've already pushed back Star Wars Acolyte, and
a ton of Marvel stuff has gotten pushed back 6 months to a year.
Skeleton Crew
is in limbo. We'll get to that.
Yeah. So, that's all right.
So Mandalorian, next season of Mandalorian, they were still in pre-production on this.
They're doing a season 4.
Yeah,
I forgot.
They haven't actually done a whole bunch. Like it. The biggest thing about Mandalorian season 4 is that they now are free to call actors to start scheduling things for filming, but they weren't in the middle of anything, so that's fine. Skeleton Crew. So 2 possibilities here, depending on which rumors you believe. Number 1 is that there might be reshoots involved with that show, which now they can get everyone together and actually do. Number 2 is that they might have been wanting to, because there's no firm release date for this show yet. They might have just been wanting to get all the actors back on board so they could do press and promotionals for this. I noticed that right after they came to a tentative agreement, they started booking actors on late night shows, which we have not seen in a long time. Well, we haven't seen late night shows for a long time.
Right. Yeah. That was period. Right. They came back a few weeks ago and they haven't been like, actors haven't been on them. So Acolyte was almost done filming when the strike started. They've got just like a couple days left, apparently. So they can probably finish that up, and Acolyte will probably not be delayed much, if at all. Yeah. Let's keep looking. God, I'm looking forward to Acolyte so much. Yeah, it sounds really intriguing. So we know there's Tales of the Jedi Season 2 is happening at some point. Bad Batch Season 3 is happening at some point. Bad Batch is interesting because they're mostly done with all the voice acting in that one. Yeah, Michelle Ang said in June that she was just about done with her stuff. Yeah. We don't know what that means for anyone else, including D. Bradley Baker, who voices like all the other 9/10 of the show. Yeah. So there's also the fact that animated projects generally don't get promoted a ton until they're here. So we might not know if anything was delayed as a result of this. Then there's the stuff that was further out. So the Rey movie was happening at some point. They were not anywhere close to the point of actually shooting anything. So that is, or even turning in a script. Yeah, that is only being delayed in that now Disney can actually start calling actors and like actively trying to get John Boyega back. Yeah, and getting people like signed up for it. Yeah. Taika Waititi's Star Wars film, which is apparently still happening. Again, I don't think there's a script turned in for that. Yeah, I saw a trailer for a new movie he's doing. Yeah, about the American Samoa soccer team. Yeah, that looks funny. That really does. That might be fun. God, I hope he's able to do a Star Wars. I hope this whole thing is just a ruse from him, where he's just trying to fuck with people. That's very Taika Waititi. Yeah. Lando, which has gone from being a show to now a movie, is still in the writing phase. Probably wasn't affected. It's probably a couple years out still. Ahsoka season 2, which, if you believe the rumors, has been greenlit, but there's been absolutely no official confirmation of that. Yeah, I haven't seen any sources on that are like super credible. Yeah. Either way, if there's anything to that, it depends on where they are in pre-production. They could still be writing. They just finished it. Finished season 1. And if they do season 2, I bet it's because of how crazy people were about Thrawn and everything in season 1. They probably didn't plan to do season 2 on the way in. And they were like, oh, well, this kind of worked. So let's like do another one of these. So yeah, that's basically everything we know about the strike and how it affected Star Wars. Well, once again, congrats to the actors. Solidarity forever. Good job. A quick MCU thing I thought was interesting. One of the many films they slated for the MCU release was Blade, starring Mahershala Ali, who's probably, actually, now that I think about it, a great casting for Blade. It was
got pretty big shoes to fill because Wesley Snipes played that role pretty well.
Shoes to fill with that film franchise, and more than, which, by the way, Wesley Snipes apparently is a gigantic piece of shit and is terrible to work with. God. And in one of the films, he's laying on a table, and he was having this big fight with the director, and the director asked him to open his eyes for a shot, and he refused to do it. Just to be spiteful, and they had to CG his eyes on.
Holy shit!
Yeah, the dude's just a huge piece of shit in general. But anyway, they're doing a new reboot, right? Mm-hmm. And they're it's going to be directed by Yann Demange, who's a French. He did like Deadpool.
Okay.
Or a couple of other things. I can't remember. Anyway, Variety, you might remember that Variety thing from a couple of weeks ago. Like, there were things about it. There were like, oh yeah, Blade's kind of in trouble too, because like Mahershala Ali didn't want to do it out like after something, and then they brought him back and everything. So Demange said in an interview with Deadline that Blade is going to have an R rating for strong, pervasive vampire violence and gore, language and brief sexuality, and oh my god, thank god.
Yeah,
because let me tell you, one of the things that was so fucking cool about Blade, at least the first movie, and the second movie was really great too, was how outlandishly bloody and crazy it was, and how much violence there was. And I think when they said that they were going to do Blade, before they knew about whatever TV show we know is doing Echo.
Yeah.
Before anyone even knew that was possible, they're like, how are they going to do Blade in like PG? Like, that doesn't make sense. And so I think a lot of people were worried about it. Mm-hmm. So now they're like, oh no, this motherfucker is rated R. And everyone's like,
okay, we're good.
Yeah, because that actually will be really cool. Which, by the way, you at home, if you've not seen the first Blade from like the early aughts or something,
I say that was a 90s film, but I guess
like it would be late 90s.
Yeah, like 98, 99.
Wesley Snipes, Chris Christopherson, I think, is in it. Like a bunch of people. It is
just put that on your list.
It's so good. In like, it's not a masterpiece. It's not like a work of art, but it is so fun to watch. And I remember being a kid not being allowed to watch it, and I did the thing that I did all the time when I had something I wasn't allowed to watch. I'd go over to my friend Joe's house and watch it there. And it was like,
God bless you, Joe, wherever you are.
I just remember like every time, like, oh God, this is so bloody. And I would get in so much trouble if I was watching this. It was great. Real quick before we continue, April says stuck on Mystery Planet. Oh, our Gungans and Dragons.
That's right,
yeah. Steven,
yeah, we're stuck there because there's some Sith fuckery going on.
Sith fuckery. That's a technical term. Steven says, I will remember you song for the supercut of the you'll get us a YouTube check. Chris says, may the force be with you, Daniel and Chris. I hope you both are having a good night. Mine's fine.
Yeah,
less so because you're here, but it was fine before. Thank you. You're probably wondering which Chris is he talking to. I'll let you think about it. Thank you both for your awesome content, your awesome channel. Thank you. Will the Bad Batch season 3 come out in 2024?
You have no. I mean,
we don't.
Maybe.
I don't think Lucasfilm knows.
Yeah, it depends on how much everything else gets delayed and when they need something on Disney Plus. Realistically,
I am looking forward to it though.
I enjoy that show more than I expected to.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't like my favorite thing in the world.
That's fine.
Yeah, I wasn't like dying to see the next, like in Ahsoka or like Mandalorian season 2 or anything. But like once I got into it, because they announced that and they're like, it's about clone troopers. And I was like, I don't fucking care about clone troopers. I want to see Jedi with lightsabers. Yeah. And so I watched it and I was like, okay, this is actually pretty cool.
Even though, again, like 90% of it is D. Bradley Baker acting to himself.
Which is fine. Yeah. Which, by the way, let's take a quick minute to talk about this. Avatar: The Last Airbender had a trailer. The Netflix. Netflix is doing a live action series, which I posted about this on the Jedi Enclave Facebook. I have this PTSD from the M. Night Shyamalan version of Avatar: The Last Airbender, where I see live action Avatar. I'm like, oh, oh God. And it just like, it makes me feel kind of ill. And I'm not usually that dramatic about movies. Yeah. And I will say, because
it's just that this movie in particular was really fucking bad.
We like to celebrate the stuff that's good. And we don't generally like to bitch about the stuff we don't. However, most of the movies I'm going to bitch about are from M. Night Shyamalan.
Which is funny because he also made Unbreakable, which you love.
I know. It's like this guy made one of my favorite non-Star Wars movies in the world and then ruined it through something else, which is, and that's his shtick, is that he has an interesting idea and then just can't follow through with it. And Avatar in particular was especially egregious because it's like he'd never watched an episode of the Nickelodeon show, which a lot of D. Bradley Baker, there's a lot of his voice acting in it, which also what's his name? Fucking cowboy hat guy. Dave Filoni was like in charge of. That's where he was working when Star Wars. So like
when George Lucas plucked him to become his Padawan.
Like his assistant called him and was like, Mr. Lucas would like to talk to you about doing something for Star Wars. And he hung up on him because he thought he was being pranked.
Yeah, of course.
But anyway, like, and I love that show. I think a lot of people my age watched it on Nickelodeon and thought it was really great. But this live action treatment was so bad. And it's like they mispronounced the main character's name throughout the whole thing. It's just like you didn't watch a single fucking episode. It
would have taken you like 5 minutes. Yeah, you would have just had to see the intro.
Yeah, and like figured it out, right? Yeah. And it's just the whole thing is just, and the effects are bad, and the fucking there are weird shots where like it doesn't like you shoot things a certain way. You do like shoulder over shoulder to all this filmmaking stuff where he's like, we're not going to do that. I'm going to put the camera on the floor, and if you're in the shot, that's fine. And if you're not, what the fuck ever. And like the acting is, it's like they only did one take of every scene, and he's like, done. That's perfect. Thank you.
What you're saying is he was phoning it in.
Yeah, I really think so. And I don't know. He always has. He seems to have this like animosity towards stuff like that, which is why he made Unbreakable, because he hated superhero movies or whatever, wanted to make his own, and that one ended up being pretty okay, or I mean amazing. But yeah, they did their Netflix trailer. It looks pretty neat.
It looks like a very close recreation of the series, which I have mixed feelings about because I love the series, but I kind of wish they would do something new with it as well.
I'm gonna wait to see it. It comes out in February, I think. General,
like, I'm reserving judgment, but like,
General Jacket from Ahsoka and Mandalorian is in it. He plays Uncle
Iroh.
Yeah, sorry. And then all the characters are played by racially appropriate actors, which is another thing they didn't do in the live action M. Night Shyamalan thing. So I don't know. It looks cool. We'll probably talk about it when it happens. It'll be a big deal.
In Star Wars news, you remember when Zynga announced a mobile game, Star Wars Hunters?
Yep. You remember what I said?
It looks like shit.
Fuck mobile games.
Yeah.
Fuck mobile
games.
Well,
guess what? It's getting delayed till next year at the very soonest.
Oh, no. I can go back to not really caring about whether or not I'm going to play it.
I don't really care about this. I mean, maybe you out there, we're really looking forward to it.
If you're 12 and you're really into mobile games, this probably affects you, yeah. I'm kidding. If you're into mobile games, that's fine. I don't give a fuck.
Anyway, I think that's it.
Yeah. Okay. So this is how we're going to do both Loki season 2 finale and the Marvels. We're going to do spoiler free, like chit chat just for a couple of minutes. And then I would like to go into as much detail as I can remember without notes, because I realized as I was sitting here, like, I didn't write plot notes for any of this. So
neither did I. It'll be fine.
It's all going to have to come. Maybe I'll pull up the Wikipedia for the Marvels to remember exactly what happened there. Because like there's one thing in particular that I can tell you all about. And the rest of it is like, wait, what were they doing? You
want to start with the Marvels?
No, I want to start with Loki because if I run out, if we have to do a little bit shorter on Marvels, that's fine. I enjoyed Marvels too, but Loki is like the thing this week. Let me put it this way. They announced Loki was going to happen, right? And I remember thinking, I mean, he died in Infinity War. And I was like, okay, so I don't know what they're going to do with that, but it could be cool. Tom Hiddleston's a good actor. That happened. The first season premiered. And I was like, shit, this is a good show. Yeah. Like, this is really fucking good. It was like that and WandaVision were like the standout MCU shows. And then the second season happened. And I was like, shit, this is as good, if not actually better than the first season, which was saying a lot because I enjoyed the first season quite a bit. And I looked forward to every week. And I got to the season finale, and I looked forward to the season finale, and then it got here.
Because you remember, like the second to last episode ends on a hell of a cliffhanger.
Yeah, and it's emotional, and the stakes are really high. The season finale gets here, and what I expected was that at the end I'd be like, "Shit, that was really good." Mm-hmm. What I did not expect was to have some insane emotional reaction to it,
where bawling your eyes out.
Well, it wasn't quite that, but I really was like, holy God, that is so fucking good. Yeah. And they fucking A+ knocked it out of the park. I could not believe how good it was. And I think the thing that really gets me, and well, I'll probably get into some more of these ideas when we get into the spoiler part, is we meet Loki at the beginning of season 1, right after he was arrested for trying to kill everyone in New York, New York City. That makes you a villain, right? Generally.
I mean, pretty unconditionally, I would say.
Yes, exactly. And in 2 seasons of a show, develops his character in such a way that he is starting point villain, ending point fucking hero. And you're just like, how the fuck did they do that? And I would say possibly one of the best villain redemption arcs I've ever seen in fantasy, including Darth Vader.
Okay.
And Ben Solo, which didn't really have much of a but you know what I like Darth Vader. Mm-hmm. You know, he did just decades of terrible things.
Killed a lot of children.
Yeah. Threw an old guy down a pipe.
Yeah.
Died. And they're like, yeah, you threw the old guy down so you go to heaven. Right? Loki, it goes through this tremendous growth in 2 seasons, and his goals change, but he still gets his original goal. But now it's with reluctance, and it's the fact that we know that he's a hero, but because of what happens to him in the end, he still has to pay for what he's done.
Yeah.
And I was like, how did they do that? That's so fucking perfectly. Take a guy that's responsible for thousands of deaths in New York, make him into someone we really love, put him in a situation where we feel like he's a hero, but to him, because of his fucking, glorious purpose, he's still paying for his sins and he's still being the hero. Mm-hmm. It's like, holy fuck, the complexity of that should be, it's like all over the place in science fiction fantasy. Like that was so good.
So I, first of all, want to acknowledge Natalie Holt's fantastic score for the entire show, both seasons. I had never heard of her before this show. She's a really good composer.
Oh God. Her music for the
scene you're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, for all of it, but really she did the same thing in the fucking first season. All of her music is fire, but there's that one episode where you're like, holy shit. And it's the, when they're in the void where she does, and it's not even particularly original because she's just ripping off Flight of the Valkyries from Wagner, but it's like, I like this better actually. This is really neat. And there is in that scene, it gets emotional and it's fucking great. And then right at the right time, here comes the Loki theme and all of the low brass. And it's it's so fucking good.
Also want to acknowledge Owen Wilson. This is the role he was born to play. Holy shit.
That's another thing. I've never hated Owen. I've never had
you just probably didn't think about him. Yeah. He's that goofy guy that's in all the comedies.
Yeah. And the comedies I didn't really like, movies I just didn't really like very much. And it's just what the fuck is wrong with your nose? Not that it matters. Not that I have any room to talk about anyone's nose, but
go from that.
This episode in particular, you want to cry with him. Mm-hmm. And it also their relationship, Mobius and Loki's relationship it's like the most enchanting bromance that ever was, right?
Yeah.
And I love the fact that his relationship with, I almost said relations, which would have sounded really weird. His relationship with Sylvie didn't go the way that you would have expected it to go. When we get into spoilers, they didn't have the moment that I think a lot of people assumed they would have, like they did in the first season. And also, we'll also talk about this in the spoilers.
Are you talking about Loki and Sylvie?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Why? What'd I say?
It made it sound like you were talking about Mobius and Sylvie, but
I don't think they had it. I mean, I don't know. That's their business. But I think they also, at the same time, creating a great season, a great story, solved their Jonathan Majors problem if they need to.
Maybe.
I think the way that it ended, it was like, let's see how everything falls. If it doesn't fall the way we want it, we'll be totally fine.
I guess as long as you brought him up, I also need to acknowledge that, God damn it, Jonathan Majors is good at his job.
He's so good.
He's a shit human being, but he's just so fucking good at acting.
Yeah. Well, I'm reluctant to say he's a shit human being because I'm very confused.
May or may not be, allegedly.
Right. I'm confused about the allegations and some of the stuff that's come out about it, and it like. It kind of seems like he actually is a shitty person, but it also seems like maybe everyone involved might have been really shitty. Yeah. So I'm not really sure. I'm this way for the facts to come out in court, and then and that'll be fine. Probably a shitty person. Mm-hmm. But yeah, fucking ace actor. I can't believe that there's a scene where he does an impression of Victor Timely as He Who Remains.
Oh God.
Where it's like he's like, oh, I'm only gonna do like 50% of it. And it's like, how do you act like that? Like, how do you do an impression of yourself playing a different character, but like do it badly, but still like good enough where we know what you're trying to do?
It's like Inception. He's in a character being in a character.
Yeah, it's just fucking crazy. That was so good. Were there any other? All the supporting characters I really enjoyed. I wish they would have developed a couple of the B-15 was her name.
Yeah.
I think the only thing we got about Casey was that he was a bank robber and was in Alcatraz, and that was it. And I get it; they didn't have a ton of time to get into it and everything. That's one thing I wish they would have. They could have kind of fleshed those guys out a little bit more. Let's get into spoilers.
Okay.
So, the last episode ends up with everyone dusting away, a la Avengers Infinity War, except instead of into little dust particles,
they turn into time spaghetti.
Why the fuck not?
And then Loki figures out, hey, I can control the time slipping by just going to the people I care about.
Which in itself was like, shit. Like that's a pretty good power to have. Yeah. Not fucking Sylvie can't do that. Like that's pretty neat. And so the episode starts with him being like, okay,
we need to stop the TVA from blowing up.
I can just Groundhog Day this.
Yeah. So he just goes back there and he tries a bunch of things to try to get Timely out the door faster so that he can do the thing.
Yeah. So we get to see Victor Timely spaghettify like 10 or 11 times, by the way.
It's gruesome.
And every one of them has a different detail.
Yeah.
Like one of the times he runs out without his helmet on. Mm-hmm. It's like, put your fucking helmet on.
A lot of times he makes it a couple extra steps and you think, oh, it's going to be okay this time. And then he turns into spaghetti.
No, yeah. And what's really weird, it's not particularly gory, but like you see his skeleton under the muscles and everything. It's just kind of weird. I like that the first time this happens, you see the first Victor Timely spaghettification from inside the airlock, where like he runs out and he screams and like the thing attached to his back just kind of slackens and then all the fucking spaghetti comes in and it'd be like, I would not want to get that on me. No. I'd be like, oh God, it's time spaghetti. I don't even know what the fuck that is. Which by the way, I guess is kind of like based off of Einsteinian physics about black holes and like how it's a theory that if you were to get stuck into, like if you were to get pulled into a black hole, that's what would happen to you. You would spaghettify or whatever.
So eventually Loki figures, okay, this isn't working. I need to go further back.
Yeah.
So he tries that. Still doesn't work.
Yeah, because he tries to speed him up.
Yeah.
Right. He's like, maybe if I just kind of kick him in the ass and get him to go faster. And he's like, okay, that doesn't work. So we need to go before this and see if we can get things happening. And one of the funniest fucking exchanges of the episode, he walks in, there's a conversation between the other Hunter and Victor Timely and Miss Minutes. And because like you can tell, like he's already in Groundhog Day mode where he's like, okay, I need to get through this conversation quickly.
Miss Minutes, you're a bitch, but if you don't help me, everything's gonna blow up. Will you help me?
I get it. You're horny. You're upset. Can we all calm the fuck down? And she gives him this look where like she raises an eyebrow and you get a cartoon like bling sound.
Yeah.
And It's fucking hilarious.
One of my favorite lines is he walks into Ouroboros's room with Victor Timely. I was like,
Yep.
Introductions. Obi, this is Victor Timely. Timely, this is Obi.
You guys are friends.
You both wrote the book.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Give me this model. Look at this model, please. And like, and their acting is really good too, because like you can tell the guy that plays Ouroboros is just like, and they're like they have their own little moment over here, but by themselves, they're like,
well,
oh
Loki's
my gosh,
over here. Let's look at the model.
Yeah.
You're gonna do this, and it's gonna do the thing.
I love how through all of these iterations, Mobius and Sylvie are both like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, why are you being
How are you doing
outlandishly weird? Yeah.
At one point, Loki's like, okay, this is clearly not working. Obi, teach me everything you know about science. Obi's like, that would take decades. Casey's like, actually, it would take centuries.
Victor Timely said it would take centuries.
Then we cut to centuries later. Here's Loki.
The funniest fucking. It reminded me in at the beginning of Endgame, they go and kill Thanos. Spoilers for the one guy that got pissed at us for the Thanos gets his head chopped off, and then you get a 5 years later thing, and you're like, shit.
Okay.
Where is this going? And I love it. Wasn't the same kind of thing, but it was like kind of for a comedy.
Yeah,
but
it made me think of fucking SpongeBob. 5 minutes later.
Yeah. And I imagine since he's a god and lives for thousands of years, maybe
he didn't go insane. In the process of that.
It might not have been that big of a deal.
Yeah.
You know. But
so he is leading everyone into the control room, holding this thing, and everyone's like,
now,
Loki, where did you get this knowledge of science from?
Multiple like advanced PhDs in quantum physics and shit.
Yeah.
It fucking knows exactly how the computer works. Like knows all of the science
because he's been through this a billion times by this point.
And I wonder if they'll ever let us know, just as a fun bit of trivia, how, because like you've seen Groundhog Day.
Yes.
The creators said that that character was stuck there for like 10,000 years.
Shit.
Yeah.
That's dark.
Which it kind of is, actually. And it would be kind of neat to know exactly how long he'd been at this. So anyway, they finally get it to work.
Yes.
They get like, and this is still like, it's funny. They front load the episode with a bunch of comedy because like we needed it. Right. Yeah. And like the entire time Victor Timely is walking down the gangway, he's like,
yes, good job. Keep going.
You're such a hero. Another step. Good job. And like they have this conversation where like, don't put the throughput multiplier on the gangway or it'll roll off. And he gets there and he puts it and he's like,
no.
What did I say? Pick that back up. And he's like, oh, right.
Oh, yes, you're right.
Yeah. He gets it in after a little bit of sticky button.
Presses the button.
It works. It shoots. And
Loki's like, holy shit. And it actually worked.
Yeah. And Victor Timely too was like, I'm a fucking hero. Like,
damn.
Like this is, so he comes back. They all do a bit of premature celebration.
They're like, yeah, we saved time.
Yeah. But then, which by the way, this throughput multiplier is nothing but
it's a MacGuffin.
Yeah,
it's
like it's the thing. They had to do the thing to the thing. It's like in every fucking movie ever. But that's fine because that's not necessarily what it's about, right? So there's some timey-wimey, sciencey
some bullshit.
Shit. Yeah.
Obi's like, hey, it's not working.
Yeah, because I guess the time branches are multiplying infinitely,
and the loom can't handle that.
Right. It's a scaling problem.
Yes.
And so Loki's like, so it didn't matter. Like the throughput multiplier wasn't the original solution.
Right. You were doomed to this result from the moment the timeline started branching.
Yeah.
Loki's like, from the moment they started branching, you say.
Which was, if you remember from the season 1 finale, is when Sylvie fucking ices He Who Remains.
So that's where Loki goes.
Yeah.
And then we get a montage of the next 5 minutes of Loki repeatedly trying to calm Sylvie down. Sylvie saying, if you want to stop me, you'll have to kill me. And then Sylvie killing He Who Remains.
And then hearing him say, see you soon.
Yeah.
And it's
again, this is funny. Like,
yeah, well, until it starts becoming not funny. And it became not funny for me after like the 5th time she said, if you're going to
Tommy, you have to kill me.
And you're like, oh, this is where
serious.
this is going. Yeah, that's where this is going. And at some point, he said the magic words to He Remains. He's like, why the fuck are you just sitting there? Like,
well, why don't you ever fight back?
Yeah.
And He Remains just picks this thing off his desk and flicks.
He's like, yeah, since you've made it this far.
Flicks at Sylvie and like she's freezing time. He's like, now then, let's have a conversation, shall we?
And this was also kind of like, it's kind of a dick thing where he's kind of like, okay, now the adults can talk, right? And so they have a conversation, and Victor Time, or He Who Remains, is pretty much like, look, these are your choices. You can you can kill Sylvie, save me, I keep everything together, or you let the temporal loom explode, everything resets. And
it starts a war that kills untold trillions.
Yeah, or infinitely more than that. Just everyone, everywhere, all at once, right? So those are your 2 choices. You're gonna have to figure out how to make that choice.
Like, we are grossly oversimplifying this because Jonathan Majors acts in such a slimy, charismatic way. I guess. Like he pulls that character off incredibly well.
Well, see, the funny thing, the read I got from this when they had this part of the conversation was he's dropped the act and he's like, okay, listen, it's been fun, but one of these 2 things has to happen, and this is really bad. The one is really, really bad. Like killing Sylvie, get it? Like that sucks. Yeah. This other thing, colossally terrible.
Yeah.
And so Loki has this.
I like at one point, he's like, what makes you think this is the first time we've had this conversation?
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's a bit of a real reveal there where he stops time and he's like, oh yeah, I learned how to do that. And He Remains like, oh, all right.
That's pretty neat.
Let's continue with the conversation then, right? I also like how they one of the scenes is in the elevator, and they brilliantly cut a scene from season 1 where they do a different POV, but they use He Who Remains scratching his nose as a way to tie the 2 shots together, even though they were filmed at different times. Just a little filmmaker thing I thought was really neat. So Loki is like, well, let's go get some friendly advice, I guess. And
so he goes back to when everyone was in Obi's house turning into spaghetti, and he's like,
no.
Oh no?
But he visits Morbius first, doesn't he? Or Mobius first.
Mobius? Does he?
No, you're right. No. He goes back to Sylvie first. Yeah.
He's like, look.
It kind of seems for a second like he's like, I need to kill you. Is that okay? And she's like, fuck no. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Her exact phrasing is, I'm not going to give you my blessing, and which is just an incredibly badass way to say, go fuck yourself.
Yeah. And he's like, okay, I mean,
okay, I probably deserve that.
Right. And this whole thing with him that I love so much is his fear of being alone. And they have the same conversation more or less where she's like, get it together, man. You're a fucking god. Like, you need to figure out what you're going to do with this. And that's when he goes to talk to Mobius. And so he fucking...
This is the first conversation they have after he gets arrested.
He's got the fucking collar on and shit. And they have this heartbreaking conversation where Mobius doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Of course not.
But Loki does. And Mobius says the thing that he needed to hear, and which is more or less...
Well, he tells a story about how he and Renslayer were on this mission to prune this little child who, if the child lived, would result in the death of thousands and
5,000
variants and all that bad shit. And Mobius couldn't do it, but Renslayer could, but they were too late and they had to prune other people, and it was a whole mess.
Yeah. And the conversation gets into glorious, but you're burdened
with glorious purpose.
And he pretty much is like, like when the choice comes up, like it's your job. There's no comfort in it. You just gotta fucking do it. Like that's that's the purpose of it and everything. And you can tell that he said the right words to Loki.
You had no idea what was going on at this point in the timeline, but Loki's like, oh yes, I understand.
And so he stands up, he shakes his hand, fucking spaghettifies his last conversation ever with him. right? And so he goes back to
when the loom is exploding.
Yeah. And there was an interesting shot that they did where everyone in the room is looking out the window at it, but he's looking at them because he's seen that a billion times anyway. But also,
this is the last time he's going to see that.
Right. And so he pulls an Armageddon where he runs down to the airlock and locks Sylvie out.
Locks it, and then they're like, open the door. He's like, fuck you. I'm going to go do the thing.
Yeah. Sylvie's like, the fuck, man? What are you doing? He's like, I'm gonna go be a god. I'm gonna be a god that you can be proud of and fucking everybody can be proud of. And opens the door under the fucking gangway, no protective
no
gear.
suit, no nothing.
He's like, fuck you.
Walks out.
Don't need
I'm
any
a god.
of that.
Fuck all of this.
Walks out, starts spawning the most badass fucking armor ever. Not really armor, just
this
like
black suit with
it's green.
cloak.
Yeah, it's very dark green.
Dark green.
And it looks like he has a little bit of all of the variants he met in the Void. Because the green cape and shit kind of looks like the kid with like the scarf and shit. And he's like, you know what? Sometimes I wear little bitty horns. Today,
the biggest horns you've ever seen.
I'm going full Richard E. Grant. I'm going to make it a big fucking deal. Everyone's going to know what it is. And he starts his walk toward the throughput or the temporal loom. And uses magic and he's like, fuck off, and just like, breaks it. And then like some weird shit happens. All the strands of
time, and they're like, what happened? Oh, the strands are dying.
Yeah.
Loki just fucking says no.
Yeah.
Reaches out, grabs them, puts some green magic into them. And,
and he's like, my mother was a witch. Watch this. And just starts bringing them all back to life. And it like right around here, I was like, oh God, I know what he's doing. Because I'm thinking he who remained dies in like every conversation they have, right? There is no he who remains. And he as he starts grabbing onto these strands of time, a rift opens to the
end of time.
Yeah. And he pulls them all in with him. Fucking as he's ascending these steps, a fucking throne appears and he fucking sits on it and he's like, fuck you guys. I'll do it myself.
My favorite part of all this is that some of the strands are like going to his cape.
Yeah, like they're coming out of it. Yeah. And
then he sits down and like twirls them all around, and it zooms out, and you see this like they're making a tree.
Yeah,
the world tree, Yggdrasil.
Yeah, from literal like Norse mythology, or if you've played God of War Ragnarok or like any of that shit. Like, so he makes this unbelievable sacrifice, and he went from being the character that like he wanted his throne, right, to not caring about it, but getting it anyway. And so that's what he does now. He's he who remains. He's the guy that guards the sacred timeline. He's the fucking reason the time stone's probably green, by the way. Like, I'm not kidding.
God.
I'm not kidding.
That's actually perfect.
Yeah. It's just like and
I don't know if they planned it that way, but it's brilliant.
Yeah. And so everyone gets to live their lives, and he is there forever,
holding it all together
till the end of time, for all time, always. Fucking, we see Renslayer gets her fucking comeuppance. She's in the void and gets eaten by Eliath, which we didn't see it happen. So maybe I don't know. Maybe she's like, get away from me, and he's like, okay.
No, but it definitely happened.
There's a new TVA. And they've got a new screen with it's a fucking tree where they, instead of pruning branches, they're like growing branches and shit. It's more additive instead of reductive. And all of their literature on the walls have changed to like, water the fucking branches or whatever.
They have a different Miss Minutes.
Yeah. They're hunting Kang variants, and what they give a shout out to the Kang from Ant-Man and Quantumania. The guy from 616. They're like, yeah, he caused you trouble, but then he got fucked. It's fine. We don't have to do anything about it. And then Mobius he gets the case file from himself and goes to the sacred timeline just to get a little peek.
To watch his jet ski riding alter ego.
Yeah. And he watches the same scene from the last episode where he's playing with his twins and everything. And the dude just acts with his face for a second. And you're like, that's fucking great. That's brilliant. Sylvie shows up and he's like, where are you going to go? And she's like, I don't fucking know. Probably back to McDonald's.
McDonald's is kind of cool.
I'm not going to lie. Probably go back there. And everything fucking ends in this peaceful resolution because Loki's gonna sit his fat ass on this throne and watch over time forever. And that's how
or at least until, you know, the Kang dynasty happens and
well, that's the thing, is that if something goes wrong with Jonathan Majors, they're gonna say that movie's not happening. And they're gonna be like, he who remained died.
He died on his way back to his home.
Well, no,
planet.
I mean, he died in Loki. He died in the show. Loki is the one who's guarding time now.
Okay.
So, and they're hunting Kang variant. They hunted them all, and then they'll bring in Doctor Doom or something, like some big like fucking, you know, villain.
Galactus maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Emotional fucking dude. I watched it twice, both times, sitting there like, this is just the sweetest bullshit in the world. Like, if every MCU movie and show was like this, we wouldn't be arguing whether or not they were in trouble. It just like, it had the right amount of fun in it. It had the right amount of like emotional, high stakes stuff in it. And it had an interesting fucking story with just enough science and weird shit in it where you're like, what the fuck is actually happening here? And the acting on top of all of it was fucking world class. Fucking great. A+. Couldn't have been better.
Really fun.
Now, well, we can do Marvels.
Okay.
I think. If we need to go a few minutes over, that's fine.
So start spoiler free.
This is better than I thought it would be.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
Yeah.
It's genuinely fun.
Yeah.
Like, if you have any interest at all in anything Marvel, just go see this in theaters.
It's good enough.
It's really good.
The last time I checked, which was before we started, 62% on Rotten Tomatoes.
It deserves a hell of a lot better than that.
With an audience score of 85%, which surprised me a whole bunch because I kind of expected the man babies to review bomb it, because that's what they like with The Last Jedi and shit.
Like, oh, girls get it done.
Yeah, it's not going to make a whole bunch of money, I don't think. But weirdly, all of the social media response I've seen to it have been overwhelmingly positive.
Because it's a very fun movie.
Yeah,
it's not great cinema. It's not going to change the world or anything, but it's just a fun movie. It's a good way to spend an hour and 45 minutes.
Right. And I'll tell you what I didn't like. We're just going to go into spoilers, okay? Because I just might accidentally start talking about shit.
Okay.
I did not love the villain. And look, I know it's Tom Hiddleston's wife, and I'm sure she's amazing and everything. It was like,
this was not a movie about her.
Yeah.
This was a movie about the three main characters and how they bounce off each other.
Yeah.
And that's fantastic.
Yeah. And they needed someone to fight. And so pretty much the bad guy, bad girl
finds the other one of Miss Marvel's bagels. And they're doing bad shit with them. And
so John, this is a joke that John and I have.
Okay.
But like I call them bagels. Just because it's goofy, but we get to this movie and they have the scene where she finds it and John leans and he's like, she found a bagel. It's like, yeah, she did. So yeah, she's pissed off at Captain Marvel, who has this galaxy-wide nickname, the Annihilator, which I'm like, makes sense.
Yeah.
Fucking
she's the reason the Kree started a big civil war and fucked up their home planet.
Their planet's dying. They're the Klingons pretty much when Kronos
and now the bad girl is going around the galaxy stealing shit from planets Captain Marvel cares about to fix her planet.
Yeah, and at first her motives were like, oh, I'm just reallocating resources.
Yeah, like we need better air, so let's steal the air. We need more water.
But by the end, she's like, just fuck you, that's why. And it's like, okay, we need a consistent motive. I also didn't love her performance. I'm sorry.
And look, she was fine.
I know. And I don't know. I'm sure a lot of people did. And this is totally personal and subjective, right? I am sure that she's a great actor. I just was like, I just don't give a fuck about this villain. Though, I mean, shit. We've had Thanos, and Jonathan Majors Kang has honestly been kind of fucking great. And you have Loki and shit. It's like, guys, we can do one more good villain. I mean, come on. So they get entangled. And I think this is pretty much on the quantum entanglement theory, where you have two particles of
more
light
or less,
that can be literally light years away. They can become entangled, and what happens to one happens to the other. This is real.
Yeah.
This is real life shit, and it scares the fuck out of me. I do not get how shit like that can happen. The universe is so fucking scary.
Yeah.
And I feel so weird and uncomfortable where we live in a universe where shit like that happens. And I was reading about this other theory the other day where like the local presentation of our universe is mostly stable, but because of like a reverse vacuum thing, could collapse. The entire universe could just collapse it within like just the smallest amount of time, and we wouldn't know what was coming. We wouldn't know what was happening, and our existences would just be fucking done. And I'm like, I can't deal with shit like that. Like, I have an anxiety disorder. I can't know about things like that. For God's sake, please. But yeah, so they get entangled with one another.
So the entanglement happens like whenever they use their powers at the same time, they swap places. And this comes up like the first major fight scene of the movie is Captain Marvel's on the other side of the galaxy from Monica Rambeau and Kamala Khan, who are in Jersey City, and they just start jumping back and forth.
It's a fun gag, and it's which, by the way, I you know that I love Brie Larson. I loved her in Captain Marvel. I've loved her in other shit I've seen too. My favorite part of this movie was Kamala Khan.
Yeah, she steals every scene she is in.
You can watch her in any scene, and she's having so much fun. Like they go to a fucking planet where they sing in musicals.
I thought it was the Bollywood planet.
Yeah,
and like of course Kamala Khan's gonna love the Bollywood planet.
They're like everyone's having a good dancing song. The three
Captain Marvel is just walking very stoically, and Monica Rambeau is like, okay,
what the fuck's happening? Kamala Khan,
she's fucking dancing.
She's having so much fun, and it's like this. It's like a good summary of the entire movie. Is that this movie has a lot of fun.
Yeah,
and it's like if Eternals had decided to have a little bit more fun like this, maybe people would have liked it better.
I do want to say, as long as we brought up the characters, so like they have this 3-pillared thing where like Captain Marvel is the kind of haunted by her past, by her mistakes. She's trying to atone and make up for it. Captain Rambeau is like kind of pissed at Captain Marvel for leaving and never coming back for what, like 20 years or something.
30 years. Yeah. She doesn't come back until after Monica blips.
Yeah.
Because there's a really touching scene where she hangs out with Maria Rambeau, who's dying of cancer. And they have a conversation about like Maria's like when Monica comes back, and Carol is like, yeah, when, I guess.
Yeah.
Thinking that it would never happen,
So there's that tension between those two.
Yeah.
And then you have Kamala Khan, who's just thrilled to be here. Like, this is the best day of her life. She's hanging out with her hero.
Yeah, she worships Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
She's me, pretty much. And, like, she finds herself in a fucking space adventure with Captain Marvel. And
she has her first superhero team.
Yeah. I would be grinning the entire time as well. Like, I totally get it. There is one thing I want to talk about before we're done with this. Okay, so we all know Goose from fucking Captain Marvel. He's a Florkin.
Yeah.
Not a cat, he's a Florkin. He decides to have babies. And at first, it's
like, what the fuck are these things?
They're like, is this like an attack? Or like, what's happening? They're like this weird fucking organ-looking eggs. Yeah. They all hatch and little kitties come out of them. And it's
adorable.
So there is something happens in the plot where Saber, the space
station is unstable, or something's happened.
They need to evacuate, but they don't have enough spaceships for everybody or whatever.
They don't have enough escape pods.
But they set up brilliantly earlier on that a Florkin can
just
eat a human
person
and then spit them back out alive.
It's fine.
I think in the comics he has like pocket dimensions in his stomach or something.
Sure, we'll go.
Yeah. And so they have to Andrew Lloyd Webber's music from Cats. Memory has a bunch of kittens running around, shot like a horror film, eating these innocent people.
While over the intercom is saying, "Do not resist the Florgans. They're gonna eat you. You're gonna be fine."
And there's this one sequence where like one of them thought she got away, and they do the horror movie trope where she turns and it's like Goose with the kitten. And they're just sitting there, and she tries to beg and everything, and she just fucking. I haven't laughed like that in a movie in such a long time. Like I usually for shit like that, I kind of laugh on the, I smile, laugh on the inside. I was like out loud laughing this entire fucking sequence.
Also want to mention the supporting actors. It feels weird to say Samuel L. Jackson is in a supporting role, but I mean, he does it really well.
Yeah.
Kamala Khan's family is phenomenal.
Yeah, her mom's hilarious. Yeah.
Like their entire family, they all have their little bits.
Yeah.
Like they were great in the show Miss Marvel, but like they also come through really well here.
Yeah. Yeah, I think everyone did a really good job. The big thing everyone's talking about from this movie,
yes,
was so at the end.
So we'll talk about before the credits, because the very last scene of the before the credits,
Monica Rambeau saves the day. Because there's a big fucking rift in reality. So now there's a hole, and beyond the hole is another fucking universe.
And Monica Rambeau gets powered up with extra space juice and flies through and closes the hole, and she's on the other side. Back on Earth, Kate Bishop comes in from her,
whatever the fuck she's doing.
Thing.
Yeah.
And who is sitting in her chair but fucking Kamala Khan
doing the Nick Fury thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like line for line, Nick Fury recruiting Tony Stark at the end of Iron Man.
I almost expected to see her with like a dart pistol or something, like in Spider-Man or something. Yeah. So they start the Young Avengers.
Yep.
And it's going to be them two and
They'll figure something else out.
Yeah, who else did we?
America Chavez would make sense.
Yes, but there was someone else that that I was like, who was in the show? By the way, the Wanda's kids would be great. Yeah. Tommy and
Billy.
Yeah, Billy. Who is? Was there not another? No. I'll think of it later. I don't know. Yeah, there was someone else I remembered, but it doesn't.
Anyway, credits start. They roll for a while, and then we get. I can't believe Marvel had the balls to do this, but that shot you were talking about with the unidentifiable costume walking past, that's in the post credits.
Yeah,
they put the post credits scene in the fucking trailer.
Yeah. It turns out Monica is in a different dimension. She's talking to the fucking Beast from the X-Men.
Yep.
And her mother, who is binary in this universe, who does not, I don't think, has a kid in this universe. So she's like, oh my God, Mom. And she's like, oh my God, who the fuck are you?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, this is kind of neat.
Yeah.
Credits. You're like, all right.
So I'm kind of disappointed that they're putting the X-Men in their own universe, but I totally get it. And it's probably for the best, because if you
they'll find a way.
Yes, but also if you just introduce X-Men into the MCU gets incredibly crowded with super people. Incredibly,
because you're also like, where the fuck were they? Yeah. There's a Charles Xavier name drop. Where I'm like, all right, that's pretty cool.
Of course, it's the X-Men. You gotta have him.
So and she's like, all right, well, how do I get the fuck back home? He's like, I don't fucking know. I'm blue. Leave me the fuck alone. All right.
Anyway, fun movie.
Yeah, fun movie. I gave it a solid B+.
Yeah,
like it was not my favorite MCU movie.
It's not gonna change the world, but it's a good way to spend $15 or whatever.
I'm sure Martin Scorsese didn't like it.
He hates it.
Yeah. Fuck Martin Scorsese.
I mean, if Martin Scorsese hates it, then it's got to be good.
Well, that's not. I mean, he is a brilliant filmmaker.
Yes.
However,
but also
he's
a
huge
head
snob.
off his ass.
Yeah, he absolutely does.
It's like the fucking Nicole Kidman. We go to the movies to be transformed.
Right. Yeah. They still play that, by the way, and we laugh every time. Where she's where's the line she says where we always laugh? I don't know. It's some line, and we always make fun of her for it. Anyway. We're going to go do some Battlefront now with our buddies, where we're probably going to talk about Invincible Season 2.
Where he...
Episode 2.
Does not quite fuck a fish.
All right.
Yeah.
Dude, so much happened this week. Where, yeah. I watched that yesterday, I think. It's like I've had so much rattling around my mind in science fiction fantasy that I was like, oh yeah, Invincible happened too. So check us out here in a couple minutes. Stick around. You'll probably get a notification if you sign up for notifications. If a mod in the chat can't take care of this, then I need to make one of you a mod who is at our live shows. So come for the discussion that's happening in the chat, come to the Battlefront stream. We'll figure it out. I'll make somebody a mod. So yeah.
Okay.
We'll see you later. Have a good night. Bye-bye.